What's up, y'all? This is Pal Nerd, and we are talking about the last color here of this newly released Palworld TCG/OCG. We finally got to the purple deck or the purple colored cards. I would say might be the most popular of all the ones I've seen people play, the ones that people like the most. It does have some very, very cool cards, some of my favorites that I've seen in the game as well. And that has the nocturnal, I guess, effects, the day and night cycle kind of thing, the night cycle, whatever you want to call it. It does have that. Most of the effects are based off it being nighttime, and like I said in the other colors, sometimes those circumstantial situations where you need more than one, I guess, effects or something to align usually aren't that consistent. However, in this deck, it is kind of the exception, not the rule, since most of the cards make it so that it is nighttime. A lot of the structures are based off of that. Some of the effects are based off of that as well. So it works really well in that aspect. So let's just get into it. We'll talk about it as we go along. Let's start with Helzifer, Wings of the Moonless Night. So it has the nocturnal effect. If it is night, it gets a 300 attack boost, making it 1000 power with 3 strike. Pretty strong. And then it has an auto effect. When your nocturnal pal is deployed, if it is night, choose up to one pal with cost less than or equal to that pal and put it into the graveyard. If you put one or more pals this way, at the end of the turn, rest this card. So essentially, if you are deploying a pal, let's say, cost of 5 or something, and your opponent has anything 5 or less, you can send that pal to the graveyard, which is very nice. There's a handful of cards in this color that can help with some of that removal, which is really nice. We have Shadowbeak, Seed of Despair. Is an 8-drop and it's a lucky pal. And if once you attack with this, it is in a rest state, which makes it nighttime. So that does help with some of those night effects. If it is night, your pal's auto activates twice, which is pretty nuts. And at the end of the turn, choose one of your pals and butcher it. If you butchered one or more cards this way, your opponent chooses one of their pals and puts it into the graveyard. Again, very nice way to get some removal on the board there. I feel like this color is maybe the most splashable with the other ones, just because you do want removal as much as you can. And then one of the most popular pals of all the pals, that is Catris, Abyssal Sorcerer, which there is an alternate art of this card that is very cool. Here it is for anybody that's curious. Very cool card. I should have probably shown some of the other ones when I was going through those, but oh well. So we have Tombat out of nowhere. This one, on deploy, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. Choose up to one pal among them, add it to your hand, and put the rest in the graveyard. It is a decent way to, get to some of those cards in your deck, essentially making it a draw effect with 5-drop, 600 power, 2 strike. It's a pretty solid card. I don't think it's absolutely necessary in the deck, but it is pretty good. Next, we have a 7-drop Pyren Noct. It does have Nocturnal. If it is nighttime, it does get that 300 boost. And it has the interrupt ability, the nullify attack, so pretty strong, pretty solid. Next we have Liline, the Noct version, Providence of the Goddess. Rest this card, you discard one card from your hand, you choose up to 1 6 or less pal from your graveyard, deploy it in the rest state. This is I was talking about this with the green cards. It's a very nice combination between green and purple, where both Lilines get to kind of spam the board a little bit more, and it's pretty strong. It's a very hard deck to go up against when they're constantly kind of comboing off each other. Next we have Depresso, one of the most adorable little guys here. He is a 2-drop and he does have Nocturnal. And I don't know why this is listed twice here, but he has he's only 100 power, but he does get the little boost. But like I said, at a 2-drop, those guys are necessary for these structures. Next we have Daydream, also a 2-drop, and it does have the Nocturnal effect as well. This one again is one of the ones that you need for structures if you are playing structures in the deck. Next we have Lavander. On attack you may discard one card from your hand. If you discard it this way, you gain a life. So kind of helps you, gain some life if you are in a troubled situation. It is pretty strong, and it does have strike too. Not a necessary card in the deck, in my opinion, but you know, it's decent. Next we have the other Daydream card. It does also have Nocturnal for a 3-drop. If it is nighttime, making it a 700 power 3-drop, which is pretty nice, honestly. Next we have Van Wyrm, Marauder of the Skies. It is a 4-drop. On deploy, you choose up to 1 pal, and it gets minus 300 power until the end of the turn. But it is not put into the graveyard if it becomes 0, kind of like in some of the other card games. It's pretty solid. It is a 4-drop, so at a 4-drop, 600 power and 2 strike, being able to kind of get over a slightly stronger pal at a 4-drop is pretty nice. So not too bad, not too bad. We have next the Menasting. There you go. Menasting, Darkness, Dwelling Scorpion. Auto, Retaliate. When this card is put into the graveyard during battle, put the opposing combat pal into the graveyard. I think that this is very strong. I feel like this is probably a 3 or 4 of in the deck. It is a lucky pal as well. And also, when he's put into the graveyard, you can choose up to 1 normal pal from your graveyard and return it to your hand. But yeah, that Retaliate effect is very strong. It is essentially Death Touch in Magic the Gathering, if you're familiar with Magic. I do think that this one is one of the stronger cards in this deck. If you're going up against a card like this, you have to play around it, since if it blocks you and it loses that power battle, your pal goes down with them. So definitely a nuisance to play against, but very strong if it's on your side. Next we have Maraith, Twilight Messenger. When this card is in the rest state, it is nighttime. Another one of those where it does help with the nighttime effects. And if it is night, all of your opponent's pals get minus 200 power. And again, it doesn't go into the graveyard if it becomes 0. But still very strong. It's a 6-drop with 2 strike and power 900. I think that is a very strong card, so definitely one that belongs in the deck. Noxed, Silent One. It is a vanilla 500 power 3-drop. I would say sometimes with these vanillas, they're not worth, even if they're low cost, they're not worth playing. But because of that Scorpion effect, I probably would play this over maybe like the Daydream, the 3-drop Daydream, or maybe one of these 2 guys, just because of that effect alone. Then we have a 4-drop, Loop Moon. On deploy, if it is nighttime, choose up to 1 6 or less pal in the stand state and put it into the graveyard. That is a very, very strong effect. For the mid games and early games especially, a lot of the pals that your opponent has are likely going to be 6 or less. So yeah, it's free removal, very nice. Would definitely play that in the deck. Next we have Astagon, Aegis, Wyvern of Death. This card is very, very cool. So on deploy, you choose up to 1 pal and it gets minus 1000 power until the end of the turn, but it doesn't put it into the graveyard if it goes 0 or less. On attack, you choose all pals with 300 or less and put them into the graveyard. That is very strong. If you're already minusing some of the attack powers on some of with one of your other pals, that effect becomes very strong. If your opponent has a lot of smaller guys that they're using for structures, this effect is very, very strong as well. But also, even if they have one of the bigger guys that are within the same kind of power range here, essentially you are getting rid of that card as well. So yeah, very, very strong. I would probably play 3 or 4 of this guy as well. Another vanilla guy, 2-drop, Who Crates. I would probably maybe play this and this as my structure pals. It's pretty decent. Then we have Lee's Punk. That is when this card is put into the graveyard, your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and discards it. Pretty strong, pretty decent for, when you're blocking, your opponent is forced to discard. That effect doesn't always come up, but it is a effect that is kind of annoying to play around as well. So, I'll probably maybe play like 2 of those guys. Plus, he's so cool. He's a cool little guy. Cognito, Looming Shadow. Having the stealth 300 power, 2 strike, I think that's very strong for a 4-drop. He's not a very powerful pal, but not being able to get blocked and having 2 strike, I think is very good. Next we have another vanilla, Insaram, which I'm surprised is a vanilla since he's such a cool guy. He's a very cool pal, one of the cooler ones, and he has no effect. But at a 5-drop, a power 900 and 2 strike, I would say he's pretty decent. I would maybe splash 1 or 2 in a deck. Blaze Howl Noct. He is one of the Nullify Attacker guys. 900 power, 2 strike, 6-drop. Pretty solid. Y'all already know how I feel about one of those, these Nullify Attack guys. Next we have Fellbat, Life Stealer. 7-drop Lucky Pal. He does have stealth as well, so he cannot be blocked. I think that is very strong. And on attack, you gain a life. So, kind of going with that whole vampire kind of vibe. But yeah, stealth in this game, I think as an early iteration of this game, I think is a very, very strong effect. So I would maybe try to squeeze that into the deck if possible. So that is all the pals. Let's look at these structures. So we have Lamp. Put the top 3 cards of your deck into the graveyard. It becomes night time until the end of the opponent's next turn. Continuous. All of your pals get the skill in parentheses continuous nocturnal. If it is night, they get 300 attack. So essentially, you mill 3 cards. It becomes nighttime until the end of your opponent's next turn. All of your pals become nocturnal, which kind of goes well with some of the other effects that we mentioned earlier, and they all gain an attack boost. That is a very strong structure in my opinion. Plus, being able to maybe mill some of these vanilla guys and bringing them back into your hand with Mana Sting, I think is pretty strong. So now we have Shoddy Bed. That is a 2-drop. Put the top 3 cards of your deck into the graveyard, so mill 3. It becomes night until your opponent's next turn. At the end of your turn, if you have a Nocturnal Pal in the rest state, you draw a card. It's a very nice way to make it nighttime and get that extra draw card. Next we have Medieval Medicine Workbench. You assign a pal, choose 1 cost X or less pal from your graveyard and deploy it in the rest state. X is equal to the cost of the assigned pal plus 2. So it's a pretty nice way to essentially monster reborn a pal. Wooden Wall, Taunt. Your opponent cannot attack other targets if a card with taunt can be targeted for an attack. So if this is up, your opponent has to attack this before it attacks anything else on your board. When this card is put into the graveyard, you draw a card. So essentially just gives you a little bit of a defense, and you're paying 3 to save your pals from an attack, and you draw a card. Not bad, not bad. Viewing Cage. So you can assign 1 pal and you exile that assigned pal. Choose 1 cost X or less pal and exile it. X is equal to the cost of the assigned pal plus 2. So if you assign a pal that is like 3 or 4, you can exile one of your opponent's pals that it's essentially like 6 and down. Which is pretty nice. And when this card leaves the base, return all pals exiled by this card's effect to the owner's hand. That's actually pretty strong effect in my opinion. It's a good way for some removal if you are pushing for a game especially. So Hanging Trap. You assign a pal. If there are no pals exiled by this card in the exile zone, you choose a pal and exile it. So you can choose your opponent's pal to exile. When this card leaves the base, deploy that pal exiled by this card into the owner's base in the rest state. It is a very, very cheap way to kind of get rid of something on your opponent's field if it is troublesome. As a 2-drop, I think that's very, very strong. Now let's look at the gears. So we have Meat Cleaver. You can rest this card and butcher 1 pal. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, choose 1 card from among them and add it to your hand, and put the remaining cards into the graveyard. So you do have to butcher one of your own pals for this effect. It's not too bad if you have a weaker guy that is kind of a little bit more useless. I don't personally know if I would play this, but it's not too bad. Then we have Daydream's Necklace. On deploy, choose up to 1 main name Daydream pal from your hand and deploy it. So you're deploying a Daydream for free at that point, kind of, because you do have to pay for this. You can rest this card, choose 1 pal, and it gets 200 until the end of the turn. It becomes night until the end of your opponent's turn. So another easy way to make it nighttime. And with gear, it's kind of nice because it's it's kind of hard to get rid of gears as of right now. And you get that attack boost and make it nighttime. So I would say this is definitely a staple in the deck. Next, we have Zoe's Strategy. Choose one of the following. Choose up to 5 of your opponent's wood or ingredients and your opponent loses them. It's not too bad, not too bad. Choose up to 1 pal from your graveyard, return it to the hand. Your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and discards it. So that's pretty nice. Choose one of your pals and butcher it. If you butchered 1 or more cards this way, choose one of your opponent's pals and put it into the graveyard. So you can sacrifice one of your pals to get rid of something your opponent has. You have pretty good options with this card. So definitely a 4 of in the deck. And I just realized I started reading an event card while I was looking at gears. So let's finish off the gears here with the Cognito Hat. Cognito Hat, rest this card, you choose 1 pal and it gets 200 power and the skill Stealth, which I think it's very worth playing this card for that stealth effect. But yeah, going into the events, I just read off Zoe's Strategy, so let's go into Dark Cannon, a very cool card here. and that is choose one pal 5 or less and put it into the graveyard. So you can get rid of any of your opponent's 5 or cost or less pals for a 3-drop. I think that's pretty strong. I would probably play this card. Next we have Black Marketeer. We choose up to 2 pals without interrupt from your graveyard and return them to your hand. It becomes nighttime until the end of the turn. This one's okay, but for a 5-drop, I'm not sure if it's really that necessary. I know that some of the milling effects may cause a pal that you want in your hand to be milled this way, but I don't know. For the 5-drop, it doesn't seem that worth it. But I mean, you do get the nighttime effect, so that one I would have to test this out and see if it's really worth playing Black Marketeer. Next, we have Strike from the Darkness, another very cool artwork. Choose one pal and put it into the grave. That is very strong. It is a 4-drop. You can get rid of almost anything on your opponent's side of the field, which is very nice. This card is definitely a staple, I would say, on almost any deck. If you can splash this, if you're playing purple, if you're playing a mono deck, you could maybe even splash this in as your purple card. Next, we have Medical Supplies. Choose one 8 or less pal from your graveyard, deploy it in the rest state. It is a monster reborn for pretty much anything in the deck. And it does get summoned rested, but that's not too bad. I think especially now that I'm seeing that over Marketeer, it's probably better. You can summon it, whatever it was that was milled, you can play it onto the field rested. It does run the chance of being attacked, but I don't know. I would definitely play this card over the Black Marketeer. And that is the purple deck. I think this deck is probably the strongest one. It is very cool. I think personally I would want to play something where it's a combination of red or purple, but yeah, I really like this. And you know what, just to close it off, we are going to do the colorless because I have not looked at the colorless. There isn't many on here anyway, so let's just go over these real quick. We have Elphadran Gentle Radiance, one of my favorite pals in the game. On attack, you may reveal one card from your hand. If you reveal the dragon pal this way, this card gains 500. So it's good in that that blue-purple dragon deck that I mentioned in one of the other videos. Next, we have Dire Howl Proud Fang. It is a vanilla. It's all right. Adventure Begins. If you have not played any cards during this game, draw 2 cards. So if you draw this early on, if you have 3 or more pals with my first and their different names, choose all pals, gain 5 strike. That's pretty strong. It's so circumstantial though, so I really don't know if any of these colorless are really worth playing. This card cannot be attacked by 4 greater pals. That's not too bad. Rebunny, Little Princess. When this card is put into the graveyard, get 1 wood. It's alright. And then Cativa, this card cannot be blocked by 3 or less pals. It's okay. And finally, Chickapee. When this card is put into the graveyard, get 1 fruit. Yeah, it's the colorless ones. They're not great. This one is decent in that blue deck with the Shillet, but yeah, the cards are okay. Anyways, that is all for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. I'm very excited for Palworld officially releasing this week as of this recording. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this game so far, and hopefully get to see a lot of cool openings on YouTube here soon. I'll have some more videos on some openings as well, hopefully, if I can get my hands on some products. So till next time, see you guys later.